It's that time of the week again where we visit with Stephanie Dobson. Stephanie is a lawyer and mediator here in Lloydminster at Hanka Divorce Law and Mediation. And it's time for another episode of Healthy, Thriving Family After Divorce. Stephanie, we're going to switch things up a little bit today, change our theme for the next few weeks, and we're going to be talking about technology. So let's talk about how technology has impacted and impacts divorce.
This is probably one of my very favorite topics. I really love implementing technology when we can use it effectively. Sometimes technology can be a pain, and sometimes it can be really helpful and economical and effective. So let's talk about kind of how technology, as you said, has impacted the divorce process. So in my case, it's pretty amazing to me to know that you never actually have to meet with me, either a lawyer or mediator, in person to complete your divorce from the very beginning to the very end. So from either conducting meetings by Zoom, whether that's as a lawyer in one-on-one or in a settlement conference or even in a mediation, or even to submitting documents electronically. We used to get piles of paper being dropped off at our office, and we'd scan them in or we'd just put them on the paper file. But for us, families can even submit stuff electronically now, signing documents remotely. We even e-file our court documents. And even on the parent side, parents can use specialized apps to help their communication to be more effective. So I would have to say that although COVID has had a lot of negatives, and we all know the negatives, one of the positives has been how, in my opinion, how it's normalized the use of technology, and in this context, in the divorce process.
And talking about COVID-19, Stephanie, obviously, as you said, when that was happening, most people had to do things via Zoom or remotely somehow. Is it getting back more to in person, or are you finding that people are liking technology and being able to do things remotely?
Well, I would say that it differs from firm to law firm. In my case, I had a remote practice throughout the entirety of COVID. And so from March 12th of 2020, right through to, the masking and the whole thing, I worked with every client remotely. Now, once the in-person stuff started to come back, I can say that I never did go back. So I've kept my practice entirely remotely. And what I've found is that that's actually increased my service area. So now I consider that I help families all throughout Alberta, all throughout Saskatchewan. And, there's a lot of clients that are outside of our Lloydminster area that are really thankful that they can meet with me remotely. Clients do appreciate having the face-to-face, but what I consider screen. So when I'm meeting with people, I really do like having that video on, because I do feel that that connection is really important. That nonverbal communication that we get, that people consider that is in person only, I find that I can get a lot of that through Zoom. And if I'm running late, or if the client's running late, there's no commute, there's no waiting in my waiting room for however long, for 15, 20 minutes. We can just send you a quick text and say, hey, we're running late. We don't bother coming on Zoom for 10, 15 minutes. So we find that our clients really appreciate Zoom and the remote factor, but certainly that's not the case for everyone.
And what about for those people who aren't as tech savvy and just are not really big fans of technology? How do you help them out, Stephanie?
Well, there's really three different ways that we use technology in our firm. So the first thing I mentioned, talking about meeting with people by Zoom. I've tested out tons of different platforms for video conferencing. And for me, I found that Zoom is by far the easiest one to use and really the most ubiquitous. So everyone seems to have attended a Zoom meeting at some point, even if it wasn't before COVID. It was certainly since COVID, most people have joined. They don't need to sign up for anything. They can download it on their phone or their tablet. It's really quite easy. We have lots of people attending, not only initial consultations, but doing their entire Zoom through their phone. Their entire mediation through Zoom. We have found that every different vintage, every different comfort level with technology has really has been able to join Zoom very easily. So that's the first thing, is the meetings. The second way that we implement technology is we use texting as a way to message with clients really quickly. So we have the ability through our phone system to text message with people. And I tell you, it's gone from, taking 3 or 4 days to get a meeting booked to 3 or 4 minutes practically to get a meeting booked, because most people seem to be on their texts all day, every day, pretty much. So it really helps to get things going in a much more efficient way. So Zoom, texting, and then our third one is the document gathering. So I mentioned how people can submit their documentation through electronic ways. And we have adopted a really easy online portal where people can submit documents to us. They can even do that through the app on their phone. So some people have their physical papers and they say, well, I don't have a scanner or a printer. So right within the app, people can actually scan their documents and upload it to us, and then we have it really easily. Lots of notifications on our end to know that that stuff's been received. So we can, of course, you can bring in your documents if you want, but what we find is that people have really adapted well to our use of technology.
All right, Stephanie. Well, thank you so much for joining us once again this week, and we'll be back next week to chat more about more technology issues with separation and divorce. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stacey.